Why does a neighborhood patrol need night vision goggles and combat boots? That's not a joke. I'm dead serious. That's what kept running through my mind the third time Greg Dalton stormed into our yard, decked out like he was on a SWAT raid, acting like my grandpa was smuggling contraband roses. He didn't knock. He didn't call. Just walked straight in like he was on a mission, and our fence was the Berlin Wall. And the wildest part, he's not even a real cop. He's just the HOA's so-called compliance officer, and he's got a thing for trespassing, like it's his cardio. Maybe you'll tell me I'm nuts, but after the third night in a row, something inside me just snapped. Grandpa wasn't the only one watching this time. I caught it all. And I'd really love to know if I'm crazy for thinking this is harassment. You ever have one of those afternoons where you finally start to relax in your own space after a day that chewed you up and spit you out? That was me last Tuesday, maybe 4:30, standing in the backyard watering tomato plants and feeling halfway human again for the first time since sunrise. There was this warm breeze sun cutting through the hose spray, birds making that sleepy evening racket in the old oaks. For a moment, everything felt right, just that suburban calm that makes you forget the world's a mess. Grandpa Frank was out front holding court on his battered porch chair, coffee mug glued to his hand glasses, sliding down his nose like he was decoding enemy signals instead of spying on Mrs. Peterson and her neurotic poodle. Frank's been with us since Grandma passed, and I'll tell you, having a 75-year-old retired Army man running your own private CIA is comforting most of the time. He knows which delivery truck's a stranger who's late on their rent who's sneaking out after dark. He's better than a Ring camera and a gossip app put together. So when I heard those sharp voices at the gate, not neighborly but official stiff, I tensed up so fast I almost dropped the hose. I stepped out front, and there she was, Paula Clark, the HOA president, rocking her navy blazer like it's a suit of armor that pinned catching the light like she's a 4-star general, and Greg Boots and clipboard looking like he's patrolling Baghdad, not Magnolia Lane. They barely said hello, just launched straight into official business demanding immediate access for an inspection. Supposedly there'd been some emergency HOA meeting, and now our trees were a threat to the community. I kid you not, my hydrangeas had apparently crossed a line. I asked as calmly as I could to see their court order, or any paperwork, honestly. Paula's fake smile vanished, and she gave Greg a look, some kind of hand signal, like they'd rehearsed a tactical maneuver at breakfast. Greg, 6 foot, 200 pounds, starts climbing our 6-foot iron fence boots, crunching into the scroll work, like he's in basic training. Paula just stands there acting like this is business as usual for HOA management. I stood there knuckles white around my garden hose and watched a grown man in combat boots drop into my backyard like a boulder, scaring the hell out of my daisies. He started scribbling nonsense on his clipboard, snapping photos from weird angles, chalking strange symbols on our patio stones like he was mapping a crime scene. When I asked what the hell he was doing, Greg didn't even bother to look up. Just kept writing. I felt like I'd fallen into a fever dream where people in uniforms can just claim your property whenever they feel like it. From his perch, Frank, deadpan as ever, just called out, "Son, I don't recall our fence offering mountain climbing services to the public." Greg ignored him, poking around, measuring gaps between rose bushes, chalking up the patio. Paula, meanwhile, tells me HOA regulations trump individual rights within community boundaries, she says, like that's an actual legal term and not something she pulled out of her briefcase this morning. After 20 minutes, Greg finally climbs back out, leaving chalk graffiti all over our patio and dirt from his boots across the flower beds. Paula gathers her papers with a little nod. Greg adjusts his clipboard like he's just wrapped up a tactical op, and they stroll away whispering. But the peace was gone. The air felt different. Frank waited till they were gone, then just muttered, "This isn't the end." I believed him. 3 days later, there it was in the mailbox, a big envelope, HOA logo, staring at me like a threat. Official violation notice. The list was pure fiction. Bushes 2 tall by 2 inches, uneven grass, gate paint faded, and a bunch of other crimes against humanity. Every single accusation had measurements taken when we weren't even home, photos from impossible angles, codes I'd never heard in any HOA meeting. But the bottom line, $2,000. Not a typo. $2,000 for having the same yard we'd had for years with not a single neighbor complaining. I read that letter 4 times, then stumbled inside like I'd been mugged. Frank, reading his paper at the kitchen table, took one look at me and said, "What's Paula up to now?" When I handed him the letter, he read it like it was a mission briefing, nodded once and said, "We need cameras." By that afternoon, I'd dropped $300 on a doorbell. Cam full HD motion lights, the works. Felt ridiculous. But 2 days later, Greg was back. Only this time he was in a utility worker disguise. Real logo tool belt clipboard, and he was about to scale the fence again. The new camera caught everything, him dropping trash in our bin area, photographing it like we were running a landfill and then marching off. Next morning, another fine. Improper waste disposal, electrical safety hazard. Same photos now timestamped before Greg even arrived. Fraud, plain and simple. I took it to Frank. He looked at the documents, his eyes narrowing. Next time our gate will defend itself. I wasn't sure if I should be worried or grateful. But there we were, standing on our porch, $4,000 in fake fines stacked on the kitchen counter. At some point, it's not about the money, it's about being pushed. I spent a whole weekend reading property law, HOA statutes, state codes. Turns out Paula was bluffing hard. Trespassing, chalking, unauthorized photos, all illegal. And yet the next envelope was even worse, a lien notice. Pay within 24 hours or we seize your house. That's when Mrs. Henderson from Oak Street knocked, face-pale folder in hand. "Paula did this to us last year," she whispered. 5 families, same playbook. Fines, threats, then foreclosure. The folder was full of proof Paula had been targeting families, buying up foreclosed homes for pennies. I felt sick. Thursday night, Greg calls. Emergency inspection tomorrow night. No warning required. Frank, already dressed, video camera ready, just said, time to find out what they're really after. At 3:07 a.m., the motion cam buzzed Paula and Greg in full police cosplay, radios, badges, paperwork, the works. Greg reached for the gate with wire cutters, but Frank had wired up a little surprise. An electric jolt lit up the yard, Greg howling like a banshee. Paula starts screaming about lawsuits, but Frank calmly steps outside. Video rolling, you're on camera, trespassing, impersonating police, destroying property. The doorbell cam auto-uploaded the footage. Police arrived in 5 minutes and Greg was in cuffs before sunrise. Paula tried to run, but neighbors blocked the exits. Fake uniforms, fake warrants, but real consequences at last. The next day, the news lit up fake police arrested in HOA dispute, but Paula spun it, claiming we were vigilantes, that Frank had booby-trapped the gate. She filed a lawsuit, $50,000 for emotional distress and bodily harm. She went live online, sobbing into a pink microphone, painting Greg as a hero and Frank as a monster. Suddenly, neighbors crossed the street to avoid us. Delivery guys wouldn't bring packages to our door. Our reputation trashed overnight. But Frank, as steady as always, just kept sipping his coffee, saying, "Let her play her cards. We've got the truth." Then came the subpoena court in 3 days. I was terrified. Frank spent the weekend in the garage working on backup systems. Sunday night, he finally opened up. He'd been gathering evidence for weeks. Bank statements, audio recordings, calls with other victims. Monday's emergency HOA meeting was packed. Paula, upfront lawyer, beside her, inflating Greg's injuries, calling us dangerous criminals. When Frank stood laptop in hand, the whole room tensed. He put up a spreadsheet, $60,000 missing from HOA accounts. Next, audio of Paula plotting with realtors, bragging about making families fold. Residents gasped. Then the big reveal of federal investigation notice, Paula's voice on tape, the missing money, the pattern of property theft. Cops at the door. Paula tried to run. Neighbors stopped her. That morning, the FBI raided 6 homes across 3 states. Greg confessed Paula was running a multi-state racket, recruiting other HOA presidents, laundering money, flipping stolen homes. The headlines called it the largest HOA fraud bust in U.S. history. Paula got 7 years in federal prison, $2.4 million in restitution. Greg did time, lost his license, wrote a public apology at our community meeting. The other HOA crooks, lawyers, presidents went down too. Now, we have real oversight, term limits, transparent budgets. Frank is our interim community coordinator, unanimously elected, of course. Neighbors wave again, kids play in the yards. The gate just hums a little warning in the night, reminding us what we survived and why you stand your ground when someone tries to steal your home. So tell me, what would you have done? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that super thanks. If you've ever stared down a bully, and don't forget to share your own HOA horror stories. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and may your neighborhood never need night vision goggles.